Hello, my name is Joe and welcome to my channel. So, time travel. As those of you who have watched me for a while might remember, my big theory regarding the fall at the end of Volume 8 was that it might send our heroes on some kind of time-traveling adventure where they would go to different points in the past and yada yada yada. Now, that turned out to be wrong. Unless the island is like prehistoric Remnant or something, which I kinda doubt, if I'm being honest. But there is a different theory regarding time that has been going around the fandom for a while now. That being that time will flow differently on the island than on Remnant. So I decided to discuss this theory, the different versions of it, as well as just my general thoughts on them and the pros and cons to each. Also, I think You All Right did a couple videos on this, but I knew I wanted to cover it myself, so I avoided watching them. Just in case there were any similar ideas or anything, just didn't want anyone to think that I was copying them or anything. Now, on to the video. So, there are two versions of this theory. One that would lead to a time skip for our heroes who fell into the void, and another that would lead to a time skip for everyone else. Let's start with the first one. Under this version of the theory, time would move faster on the island than on Remnant, meaning while only a few minutes or maybe a day would pass on Remnant, RWBY and Jean might experience weeks, months, or even years on the island. This would make Volume 9, along with being time for our heroes to sort out their mental states after the ringer they were put through in Volume 8, an opportunity for kind of a training arc. The last chance to really hone any skills, Silver Eyes, before returning to Remnant and the final stand against Salem. Because, honestly, that time is rapidly approaching. Salem already has 2 of the relics. She revealed herself in Atlas, and RWBY told the rest of the world about her. She isn't hiding anymore. She's going on the attack. As for my thoughts on this theory, I actually really like this idea. I don't know if it's just me, but I really like training arcs, to be honest. And I especially have a fondness for the hyperbolic time chamber from Dragon Ball, which this theory proposes the island essentially is. It would also give the opportunity for more drastic design shifts for the characters that are there. Perhaps even the mythical long-haired RWBY and short-haired Yang? Also, maybe getting rid of Jean's banana hair. I don't know, personally, I grew to like it a lot over the course of the Atlas arc, but I know a lot of people still find it really bad looking, so if they wanted to appease them, this is their chance. Finally, it would really help continue the parallel of RWBY and Jean's stories. After Jean lost Pyrrha, RWBY, after witnessing her death, went with his team for several months and took some of the burden of leadership off Jean's shoulders. Now we could see something similar happen. After being there for Penny's death, even being the one to kill her despite it not truly being his fault, Jean could return the favor of what RWBY did for him, being with her team for a period of time and taking some of the burden off her shoulders while she processes the grief. Unfortunately, while I do prefer this version of the theory, I don't think it's gonna happen. There really isn't much evidence of this being the case. The only connection with this kind of time dilation we've seen in the show is when time freezes when using the relics. And while the island is connected to the relics in some way, I don't really feel like that's enough, necessarily. It's possible, but kinda iffy. Also, the 2 suns we see in the little Volume 9 preview could be a reference to Namek, again leading to Dragon Ball and Time Chamber comparisons, but I'm skeptical. There are also some problems with this version of a theory from a sort of meta marketing and production standpoint. We've been told Volume 9 will be a bit of a shorter volume, and given that fact, I can't really see that much time passing on screen for it. I mean, maybe they would do something like Day 1, Day 30, Day 100 type thing with our heroes trying to survive on the island, and that would be really cool, honestly, but it doesn't really feel like something RWBY as a show would do. Also, as much as I'd like to see some more drastic changes in character models, like I was saying earlier, I doubt they would choose to do that within a volume itself. I feel like a big part of marketing and hyping up Volume 7 was the reveal of Team RWBY's new outfits, so I'm not sure the creators would want to change their models much in Volume 9 and lose some of the hype from that for Volume 10. That brings us to the second possible avenue this theory could take. That being, with time moving slower on the island, thus making it so when our heroes get out, the rest of the world has jumped forward a significant portion of time, maybe even years. This would make Volume 9 more of a quick breather than anything else, maybe a week of time in-universe for our heroes to deal with what happened in Volume 8 and recuperate, before immediately increasing the tension 100-fold in Volume 10 by having Remnant be multiple years in the future and humanity being on the verge of defeat by Salem. As for proof of this theory, much like the previous one, it's very scarce. However, there is one thing. You remember those two suns I mentioned earlier, right? Well, an interesting thing about them is that one was moving significantly faster than the other. Now, I may be wrong, but what I think is that that second sun represents how much time is flowing on Remnant. And if I'm right, whoo boy, is it just racing across the sky. It'll probably have set within half an hour or even less. So, that would mean a lot of time is gonna pass in whatever short amount of time they're on the island under this version of the theory. And beyond any evidence within the show itself, it just makes more narrative sense, I think. As much as I would dislike it because it would either cut Nora's continuing development short or relegate it to a book, it would open up a lot of avenues for the RWBY. For instance, as I just said, books. Having a time skip on Remnant before Team RWBY returns would leave a large chunk of time open for them to set books in, like a third coffee book, or a book about Crow Robin and the Aesops or something. It would also accelerate development for certain characters. For instance, they could have it so Whitley trained with his mother while Weiss was gone, making him capable of fighting and using glyphs, given he doesn't have much else he can do within Vacuo, and creating a moment when RWBY returns of Weiss seeing her little brother all grown up and using glyphs. And they could also use this time to accelerate Oscar's merge with Ozpin, which, as I've discussed before, is a major issue I have with Oscar's character, which this wouldn't really solve, I don't think, but, I'll leave a card on the screen if you want to see my full explanation of my issues with this particular aspect of Oscar's character, and other aspects. Finally, as I said in the beginning of this section, this would do a lot to raise tension, which is something the writers likely want, given we are probably drawing close to the end. I mean, it's possible RWBY could go to Volume 15. I hope it does. But there's a good chance that Volume 10 to 12 are going to be the last arc of the show, at least with its current storyline. I don't want this to be the case, just like I don't necessarily want this theory to be the case. But I could see it happening. For now, we'll just have to wait and see what comes in time. But hey, those are just my thoughts. What do you think? Agree? Disagree? Think this theory about time skips really came out of nowhere? I kind of agree with you. Let me know in the comments down below. And, subscribe. I'm trying to do a video every week or two, so you might find something you like. Till next time, safe journeys, my friends.